Hello again. Welcome back. Now I'm going to look at Django, which is the Sergio Corbucci um, spaghetti western from 1966 that inspired a lot of interest and a lot of uproar at the time. This is a film that was banned in Britain for a very long time. We never had a chance to really see it until far later on in Britain. I mean, it's one of those films that was famously banned by a census place that was too scared for its own good. And it's not as violent as Wild Bunch either. It's a bit more outrageous than some films. It's a bit more theatrical in some films, but it's not really, compared to Wild Bunch, it's not actually that bad for the time of that era. But it was one of the most influential films. It came out after the Dollars trilogy. Corbucci was a friend of Sergio Leone, and he is known as like the second best spaghetti western director, really, because he did a lot of them as well. A lot of other directors in Italy did some spaghetti westerns, but also did like giallo and you know just a variety of films as they went on, and zombie films and everything else. It's like it was one genre they did, then they moved on another genre, then another genre, like Italian crime films in the 70s, stuff like that. So there's a lot of directors who moved on from this, and they were less known for their spaghetti westerns. Corbucci, even though he moved on from them once they died off, is the films that people remember from them are really spaghetti western ones, like The Great Silence, Django. You know, those are the two big ones. But you've also got the Mercenary, Specialists, Hellbenders, Ministers of Clay. There's a whole bunch of them that he did that is I'm now Navajo Joe, which is infamous, Burt Reynolds one that was very violent. So he did a lot of them, but like The Great Silence is viewed as one of the great spaghetti westerns, and Django is one of the influential spaghetti westerns. So I mean, he really peaked with these two, you know, and the film is terrific. I like The Great Silence more. It's got a darker ending. It's got a really fascinating setup. This one is terrific as well. This one's just pure opera in a kind of grimy way. You know, it's kind of thing is he's more Abel Ferreira than Francis Coppola, and that kind of. Coppola was doing the classy gangster movies, and Abel Ferreira did the more grimy, to the ground, to life gangster movies. And Corbucci is much more in Ferreira mold, where yeah, you might have a nice set, you might have some nice costumes, but he'll rough them up pretty wetly. He'll rough up his protagonists, so the protagonists are pretty nasty, and there's a sense to him like he's even around the real world a bit too much for him to really believe in some of the stuff that Leone does and as a joke. Like he's just not into that. But he also is an entertainer, so he knows what he's doing. But he can be pretty brutal, and Django is really brutal. I mean, Django is the film that's famous for the violence, like someone's getting their ear cut off, but also for the idea of it starts off with Django coming into a town that's corrupt and horrible, kind of like Jimbo Fistful of Dollars thing, with two different groups vying for control of the town, just like Jimbo Fistful of Dollars. Then it goes its own way. Um, Basically, Django comes into this town with a coffin he's dragging along, which is a terrific image that keeps going. It pays off in a logical way later on. So what's in the coffin, you'll find out it's really well done. But instead of playing the teams off against each other, he takes it on one side and then works with the other side on a heist, which is very different from a Fistful of Dollars and Jimbo. He's not playing against each other at all. Now, but both sides are very violent thugs for different reasons. Like the first group that he takes out are all out racists. They're from the South. They lost the war. They're now near Mexico shooting Mexicans. And they're all out racist. They are they have Mexicans try to run away, escape them, and then you start shooting them as a sport. They have anybody who's not white skinned, even a hint of, you know, color. That's enough for them to hate them. They just are repulsive people. They're like the most ultimate racist. They've got these hoods on are red. They are just the most brutal thing. And the red's only thing is jumps out to you of colour in the whole film. Because the town is all mud. And it's been raining, the mud soaking. And then you just feel in the film that the whole town is just damp and horrible. And no one wants to leave. It's called Tombstone, which is perfect. There's a character called Ringo for like 2 minutes before he gets killed, but it's nothing to do with the actual historical Tombstone. It's just that's the name. Django's looking to avenge somebody, this woman, but you never know what she was to him. They never tell you. But all we know is that took the love away from him, so he's come back years later with this cough and he's out for blood. And he tactically annoys the guy in charge, this general in charge, and she kills some of his men and makes them come back with more men so he can kill them all in much more brutal ways. And he knows how to play people. He's always got a plan of knows what he's doing, knows how to play off different folks. Sort of like Clint Eastwood, but he's much more cynical than Clint Eastwood was in Fistful of Dollars. This guy's really dark and cynical. This guy has... Well, he does have a side to him that isn't inhumane. There isn't much of humanity left to him. And he is pretty much a criminal. Which is great, really, because it means he can take on other people in the most brutal way possible. And he does not care about people's feelings at all. Nor does the enemy. The enemy, either the racists or the Mexicans, they are all... None of them are people you'd ever want to meet in real life. The Mexicans, you think after they deal with the Mexicans and how they were getting gunned down and repeatedly brutalized, they try and make them human. No. They're just as bad as the racists. They're... First we see them, they're whipping a woman, then who is then saved by the racists who want to burn her alive because she's half Mexican before Django kills him. Then Django takes her with him to the town, protects her for a while, and then when after he's killed all the racists, he gives her to the Mexicans back because she escaped the Mexicans. And he said, I brought your women back to you because he knows the guy in charge of the Mexicans. He uses her basically to get back in with the Mexicans to get his plan in order so he can steal this gold, which is the gold of the colonel who was running the place in the first place. And basically, he's a total scumbag. But everyone's a total scumbag. And the guy in charge of the Mexicans was in jail with Django at one time. And he knows Django's good at his job. So he goes along with the plan to make money so that he can actually buy more weapons. Which means going over the border where they're wanted, stealing this money from this little fort where the racist guy is holed up with the Mexicans. This racist guy hates Mexicans, but he's so corrupt that he has to work with them to keep his money in play. Which is a nice little metaphor for how money actually works. It's like you have proclamations of what you believe, but you'll do anything to keep the money. So in a really brutal fight, they steal the money from the Mexicans and get back over the border before infighting takes place and before people back out in the world. Django has to be sly as hell. Everybody, like most people, get killed in brutal, horrible ways, and Django ends up having to face down the villains with his hands smashed to pieces, so he can't shoot properly. And he has to improvise from that position. Of course, he still wins, but it's wonderful to see how brutal it is. I mean, see, it's that film where the hero gets his hand smashed to pieces. Another one where a flunky gets his ear cut off and is made to eat it before he gets shot. You know, there's a cat fight in the streets, but the cat fight goes through all this mud, so it's intentionally as unappealing as possible. The racism is bleak and it's operatic, but it's also true to what racism can be like in a sense of just how ugly it is. There's just a sense of corruption throughout the whole film. The film has everybody's corrupt. Everybody is the most awful person imaginable. Even the people who are decent are, they're fairly sleazy. They still have an ounce of humanity when they have a chance to use it. Like they might still betray you, but they're not going to do it and cheer about what they've done. They'll make you a bit guilty, then they'll move on with their lives. That's the best you get in this world. And Django himself steals money from his friends, cons his friends, does horrible things to them. So he's not exactly, he kind of has what's coming to him, but it's just everyone else is worse. So that's why this is like one of these spaghetti westerns, because it's like there is no one innocent. The nicest person there is a woman, Mexican prostitute who gets thrown around from place to place and ends up getting shot in the back. She's the nicest person there, and she's trying to be realistic as possible. It's like if they spend time stealing the gold, then basically gold falls in quicksand. That's the kind of film it is. It's like nobody's away with any dignity, nobody's away with any money. Everything's going to go to hell. And that's what is wonderful about it. It's just a beautiful, nasty film. It's just like, because this is a film made about fascism. Spaghetti westerns were famously about Italy. Like they said they were about America, but they were about Italy. Because Italy had a fascist past with Mussolini and Hitler. And then after that, you had a lot of stuff with communism coming in and lots of different interests. So you had a kind of Italy's a lot of different political interests for a long time. Some left wing, some right wing. Even in the 60s and 70s, you had a lot of different wings of terrorists and people who objected to different things that were going on. Say in Germany, the Baader-Meinhof gang, you have a lot of people who are very politically engaged. So Italy, a lot of political directors like Bertolucci, Petrie, things like that. There's also a lot of political directors who could not get those budgets for those films, but could do spaghetti westerns. And they would still also have their political beliefs in these films. So basically, your main villain is a total racist. You're many of the people from the south, from being who are from Mexico, are utterly scumbaggery, just pure scumbags. They're basically trying to get money so they can do a revolution, take over a country, to be the next few dictators. And it's just one of those things where everybody just has a political tie in some way to the reality these people knew, even though they're doing entertainment. There's a lot there bubbling on the surface. They look like they're exercising a lot of their dysfunction through the entertainment. And you get that through the 70s as well. There's always, like, in Italy, pretty much up to the 80s, there's always a sense of subtext to things, even if they're silly. The people who are still working there had grown up or had come from World War II. There's no escaping it. Then in the 80s come in, the kids really come in with who were less political because they didn't come from World War II. Like they had no memory of that or the fascism or the aftermath of it. But it was hung over everyone else, so some ways more obvious than others. So you get that in all of these westerns. That's one of the reasons why spaghetti westerns are so much fun, is there are political elements to them all. There is a sense of all the directors actually are politically engaged in some way, even though they're doing these silly stories. Because in American westerns, there's a lot of politics as well, but it's very right-wing in a lot of ways. And the directors play unaware of some of it because they were part of the kind of mainstream of society at the time, that they were just espousing the normal views. And now you look at it and go, well, that's very right-wing. But that's just the culture at the time that they're espousing. I'm sure if you're doing a Western, there's a good chance you probably were right of centre. anyway. It's all about land. It's all about building things. You know, it's like making sure you make sure you get them. You're paid properly. You get your money, and so you can build some more to make more money. There's that kind of thing. There's very Western and shooting people for the money and things like that. Which when it came over to Italy, it became much more satirical. It was like, you do all this stuff, but it's not going to mean anything. The money's going to be meaningless to you in the end. That's what Italy brought to the Western, and then that's what Sam Peckinpah brought back to American Westerns. So Django is just wonderful. I actually watched Django and Django, which was on Netflix. It was done in 2019, talking about Django, the director Sergio Corbucci's career. Tarantino, who did Django Unchained, was involved and did a lot of talking. You also got Franco Nero talking, and you got the director of Cannibal Holocaust, whose name I can never remember. He was the assistant director in the Corbucci films. I'm talking about his whole career, but mainly Django. And it's a fun documentary. It's not amazing in any way. Tarantino dominates, and again, from watching this, you realise he's a very skewed version of what he thinks Italian Westerns are. It's not always wrong, but it's a very specific thing he's into them for. That not really what I'm into them for a lot of time. And he was saying, the funny thing was, he's about theory, they're all about fascism. You know, like, yeah, but people have been saying that since the 60s. It's not a new theory. Everyone always knew that was about. It's not a theory you've just discovered. It's something that's always been there. So that was kind of funny because it was like, yeah, there's you haven't discovered anything new. You're not seeing anything new about these films. But I'm sure for people who are just starting out, it's good to see the documentary. If you know the films, it's probably less interesting. Because Tarantino tends to have specific looks at films and specific theories about films. And for a lot of time, I was thinking, what's he talking about? Because, like anyone else, he has some theories that make sense and some theories that don't really make sense. So, there you go. But it's worth seeing, since I'm talking Django, it's worth seeing if you watch Django. You want something that's another extra thing about it, it's worth seeing there. But it's not amazing in any way. But watching this film reminds me how much better it is than Django Unchained. It's in and out in 90 minutes. It's more brutal than Django Unchained. It is also anti-racist, but it doesn't labor on it, and it just doesn't really keep going and going the way that film did. So Django, definitely get it. The 4K is wonderful. You get lots of extras on it. I got this from America, but it's multi-region if you get the 4K, and you can just play whatever. So it's definitely worth the money. So buy it if you can. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back soon with another one, which is just a general one. Okay, well, bye for now.